Hello and welcome to another Medicinal Monday episode of the Alter Your Health podcast. Happy to have you with us again. I'm Dr. Ben.
And I'm Dr. Susanna.
And we are both naturopathic doctors who empower you to heal yourself through whole food, plant-based nutrition, as well as mind-body medicine. And today we are kind of taking a step back, or maybe like 10 or 20 steps back, and looking at things from a bigger picture. It just occurred to me that we have all of these conversations about natural health and healing ourselves, but we have neglected thus far to really discuss the greater context of self-healing and how the body does in fact always heal itself, and how we can reframe and relate with our health and our symptoms in a way that's much more empowering and leads us to naturally seek and experience greater health.
Yeah, and this is a really important topic because I think the tendency for a lot of people when a symptom does come up, it's so easy for that initial response to think, oh no, something's wrong, and to kind of create this fear response in the body, like something's wrong, I gotta fix it. Something's wrong, I gotta fix it. We just want it to go away, right? But what we're going to talk about in this episode is really understanding what those symptoms are, what they are actually trying to accomplish in the body, in this self-healing organism that we all have. And when we understand that, the process of resolving symptoms is a lot more empowering.
So we're going to be talking about some real examples. Of course, there are thousands, infinite really, examples of how the body is healing itself and the symptoms that might result and come along in that process. But hopefully the intention is to again, reframe our thinking and get more curious, and maybe open up to more deeply understanding our physiology, what's going on beneath the surface, so that we can have a stronger relationship with our cells and our body and our organ systems, and be more empowered in the choices that we're making to create more health on a daily basis.
Yes.
So, starting right off the bat, I think we've already introduced maybe the most important principle that I think is thrown around a lot. And I think we just need to deepen into the understanding of the fact that our body does heal itself. I think I hear a lot that our body can heal itself. And we like to really affirm that our body does heal itself always, 100% of the time. And that being said, it only does so to the best of its ability, given the environment and the resources, what we're feeding it, what we're drinking, the thoughts that we're having, the environment that we're creating on a moment-to-moment basis, because we can and we do shift the environment of our body moment to moment, not even meal to meal or day to day. We shift it moment to moment based on really our state of mind in a moment. But the environment of our body dictates to what degree of health we're going to experience. And everything that we do experience, every symptom that we feel, is a consequence of the environment that we have created.
Yeah. If you're looking for a little bit of evidence of this self-healing power in your own body, of course, there's some really easy examples of whenever you fall down and scrape your knee, the skin heals. The skin seals itself up without you doing anything. You don't have to teach those skin cells how to regrow or regenerate. And even without, this kind of obvious example of an injury that heals itself, we can even think about just how our body is constantly turning over and regenerating every single moment. It's how our hair grows, it's how our nails grow. Our body is always regenerating, turning over, and healing itself.
Right. I know, our skin is healing. I forget the time frame at which skin cells are regenerating, but I know our gastrointestinal tract is actually the most rapidly turning over cells in our body. Every 3 to 5 days, we've got an entirely new gastrointestinal tract. And then that begs the question, why do I have chronic digestive symptoms if my digestive system is healing itself so rapidly? And the answer is because we have chronic insults and injuries, and we're chronically creating and maintaining an environment that is leading to disharmony rather than that harmony. And of course, we can dive into the microbiome and all that kind of good stuff that in the context of gut health that we're not going to do. But the fact is, I'm glad you bring up this regenerative potential that is happening when it comes to each and every one of our cells in our body.
Right. Yeah, and that question that you brought up, Ben, is a really big question. It's the one we need to explore next, which is like, okay, if my body heals itself, then why do I have X symptom? Or why do I have symptoms X, Y, and Z? And yes, that really is the question because,
Mhm.
I've seen a lot. I've seen this a lot in people where, they want to believe their body is healing itself, but they feel as though their body is broken somehow because they have chronic symptoms.
Well, I think even if I could, before going down in that direction, I'd like to bring up this idea that this paradigm, this worldview that most of us are living in. Not all of us, but most of us are living in a world where we have a symptom, and like you kind of started off by saying, we want that symptom to go away, and then we of course go to the doctor. We go to the functional medicine doctor. We go to the naturopathic doctor. We go to the herbalist. We go to anywhere to seek a treatment for the symptom. Make me feel better again. Make this symptom resolve. The anti-inflammatories, antioxidants, antivirals, antimicrobials. And of course, there's all sorts of room for these supplements and herbs and pharmaceuticals and products and protocols and procedures and things. But when we're not really looking at the foundation of health, when we're not looking at that environment that we're creating on a moment to moment basis, we're going to fail to see the real root causes. And, it's so sad to me that, like, I hear people all the time like, oh, well, we need to treat the root cause of your condition. And then they talk about anti-inflammatories. They talk about, like, getting some, living an anti-inflammatory lifestyle, doing an anti-inflammatory diet, or taking some anti-inflammatory herbs or pharmaceuticals to get to the root cause of inflammation. But most of the time, the root causes are not things that we're deficient in. We're not necessarily deficient in ibuprofen or curcumin or even salmon or artichokes, or like even real whole foods. We're generally not deficient in that stuff. Generally, there are toxicities and excesses, whether it's a toxicity environmental, like a heavy metal or a poison or a herbicide or pesticide, or whether it's just adrenaline and cortisol and imbalances from toxic thinking or believing our thoughts to be true and creating a stressful story in our head. But in any event, we need to get curious about what those real fundamental root causes are. And by and large, they are not found, they're not addressed at any sort of doctor's office, at any sort of, even our best favorite functional medicine, holistic provider. The fact is that we are the ones who heal ourselves.
Yeah, and just to add on to that too, in this kind of reframing and how we relate to symptoms, rather than just wanting to squash them or suppress them or make them go away, we need to get curious about them. But we need to get curious not only about what their root cause is, but about what they mean, what they're trying to tell us, and how actually the symptom might be a result of our body doing its best to heal ourselves.
Yeah. And of course, when we're talking about symptoms, when we're talking about disease, it's so important to distinguish acute symptoms from chronic symptoms, because like you're saying, if we fall down and skin our knee, we've got an acute inflammation on our knee and we've got a boo-boo that's healing itself. But that's very different than chronic joint pain in the knee, right? That's very different, because the root cause is not just an injury. The root cause is deeper, inflammation and toxicity and things that aren't quite as obvious oftentimes. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
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 So yes, getting curious about what the fundamental root causes are so important. And I think that's why it does help to have a conversation with someone who's knowledgeable about this sort of stuff, because we have our blind spots. We only know what we know. We don't know what we don't know. We might know that we don't know a lot of stuff, but we don't know what we don't know. So being able to see what we can't see is so important, and be empowered to take action to resolve things is so important. I know you wanted to also share some real stories of the body healing itself in action, and how when we do address the fundamental root cause, things resolve.
Yeah, but I think we're still missing a key point of this conversation here, which
Cool.
is that we haven't addressed the question that I asked earlier.
Oh.
So if my body's always healing itself, then why do I have chronic symptoms?
Because there's something that's missing. There's something that, or there's either something that's missing, or there's some toxicity in excess that is creating that physiologic disturbance, or there's a state of mind that's creating tension, and stress and the subtlety of that response.
Yeah, but more broadly, symptoms are really our body's attempt to come back into balance. And I think
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and inflammation is actually a really good example of this, because we can consider chronic inflammation in the joints, chronic systemic inflammation, where if we actually look at the process of inflammation, I think, of course, inflammation now in our culture, it just has this horrible reputation: inflammation bad, inflammation pain. But inflammation is a key, crucial response of your immune system that keeps you alive and keeps you safe from pathogens and toxins and any kind of foreign matter that's going to come into your body and wreak havoc, right?
Yeah.
So what happens when something comes in, whether it's a toxin or a pathogen or whatever, your beautiful immune system does create an immune response, and the result of that response is inflammation. In the process of killing off the pathogen, in the process of helping to eliminate the toxin, there is some destruction of tissue that happens in this inflammatory process. So if it's an upper respiratory infection, we get the inflammation of the our sore throat, or our inflamed mucous membranes that causes congestion. And a lot of people just attribute that to, oh, that's the virus. But no, it's actually your immune system's response to the virus that creates those symptoms. So I think it can be really, really helpful to recognize that many symptoms are actually a byproduct of your body's self-healing process. Now, of course, then we need to ask ourselves, why is the body ramped up in this way? Why is it creating more inflammation? It must mean that there is something coming in that's creating that response, in this example of inflammation.
Yeah, and of course we've done our whole anti-inflammatory challenge that discusses all the fundamental root causes of inflammation. And I'm glad that you brought up the I word, the big I word of inflammation, because so many people, again, we've said it a lot already today, but so many people are told, oh, well, this is due to inflammation, that's due to inflammation, we need to resolve the inflammation. And it's true, we do, we really do. But the ways to do that in a proactive, empowered, and most importantly, sustainable and successful sort of way comes down to, addressing the foundation, the root, how we are, of course, eating, drinking, thinking, and living moment to moment, day by day. And that's where it helps to have some, more eyes on what's going on, what's happening. Are there environmental toxins that are lurking in the household? Are there things that are in the ingredient list that maybe are inflammatory in your body? Is there a microbiome, dysbiosis scenario that's kind of perpetuating this inflammatory response? So yeah.
And what you're pointing to, Ben, is really one of the most foundational interventions. It is at the foundation of naturopathic therapeutics, which is to identify and remove obstacles to healing. Because if we didn't have any obstacles to healing, our bodies would be feeling wonderful and great.
Yeah.
But if we are faced with these quote unquote obstacles to healing, I don't even know if I like that phrase, obstacles to healing.
Yeah,
I suppose I do. I suppose they
Yeah,
do.
that's not to say that they block the healing response, but
Right.
they hinder the healing response and therefore create symptoms or create a state of health that's less than optimal.
Mhm.
And, of course, maybe taking a even another step back, I think that it's helpful to see health as not a destination. Health is not like, oh yeah, that's health over there and I'm going to get there. But health is the journey. Health is the journey. It's not the destination. And that's not to say that if you have a chronic disease that you'll never be healthy, because you most certainly will. But in my experience, my experience of health is ever evolving. And it's like, not for sure, not linear as well. Sometimes there are bad days and worse days and better days for no apparent reason, because there are invisible obstacles that might be circulating in our environment, circulating in our state of mind, circulating in our intestinal tract, whatever it is. And our body is incredibly resilient and shares that information, shares that feedback and those messages. So back to the point that we were trying to make, and I guess we're a little bit all over the place, but we can stay curious to those symptoms. And it's like, oh, I've got a little bit of a headache, I've got a little bit of a sore throat. I'm going to drink a glass of really great purified water. I'm going to rest. I'm going to, listen to my body in whatever ways make sense in that moment.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, we often say, and I don't know whose original quote this is, but that health is not the absence of disease, but rather the ability to move through disease with
Ease.
ease.
Mhm.
Yes. And I think that's so important. It's so important for us to recognize that also, in today's times where it's like it's cold and flu season now. A lot of people are, want to prevent that kind of illness, but it is the body's very natural and
Yeah.
normal response.
Getting sick is so
Mhm.
is so normal and
Mhm.
actually healthy.
Mhm.
A lot of people, I've gotten a lot of hate for saying that, but it's true. It's true. It's fundamentally true. It's been true throughout history, quote unquote. Getting sick, catching an acute illness and having an acute healing response is very healthy for our immune system, our detoxification pathways, and everything else for that matter.
Mhm.
Now, of course, there's like, again, the conversation between acute illness, acute symptoms, and chronic disease and chronic symptoms, it's a different conversation. It's a different conversation. But of course, when we have chronic symptoms, when we have chronic disease, then those acute ailments become more dangerous. They become more life-threatening. So we need to be working at addressing chronic foundational disturbances, imbalances, healing chronic conditions to make ourselves more resilient to the acute stuff that is invariably going to come our way, whether it's a twisted ankle or, because healthy people resolve inflammation, healthy people heal broken bones, healthy people overcome acute infections a lot more resiliently, gracefully, than people who have chronic illnesses going on. But that's not to say that if you do have chronic illness or chronic, conditions or symptoms, that you should like feel disempowered. Like there's nothing that you can do.
Doesn't mean that your body's not still healing
It doesn't mean
itself.
that your body's not still healing itself. In fact, like this message is for you. Like you can and you are healing yourself. Again, your body is healing to the best of its ability, given the environment and resources it has at hand right now. And it's up to you to shift that environment. And I know it can feel really overwhelming and like you don't know how to shift that environment. But this is where we encourage people to tune in, listen to their body, take the baby steps that are common sense, eating more fruits and vegetables, drinking more water, aligning more with nature, staying, breathing fresh air outside, doing these common sense things. And, since there's such low hanging fruit and so common sense and they're free, a lot of people think, oh, well, that can't be nearly as effective or helpful as my, ibuprofen or, cholesterol lowering
Or
medications or,
yeah, and also it's easy to overlook them because we might feel as though our condition is so complex or so serious and that it needs a more complex intervention. But the truth is that when your body is given the ideal environment and resources, it heals itself.
And we're not throwing all of our conventional doctors under the bus here saying that you should stop swallowing pills and stop stealing them. We're identifying and acknowledging them for what they are and what they do. And it's helpful to see what they aren't and what they can't do and don't do. And that is heal you and fix you. They manage you and in the best case scenario, right?
Yeah. But yeah, I think the parting message I have is that you heal yourself because your body was designed to heal itself. And also, you're the person in your life that has the most responsibility for helping to create that ideal environment to give your body the resources it needs to heal itself most optimally. And that's why we're so passionate about education, because really that is how you can become your best healer, is by learning what resources to provide your body with and how to create that ideal environment.
And there's so much controversy. It's like this water filter, that water filter, this
Diet,
this
that
way of
diet.
eating or that way of eating, this potato or that potato. It's like there's so much controversy, and you're in charge, and you are in charge. Don't listen to us. Don't listen to anyone outside of your heart. Listen to yourself. That being said, take in all the information, get curious, stay attuned to your body, what it needs. And from our perspective, of course, we do encourage you to eat more real whole plant foods and less processed stuff, less animal products, more natural things. Of course, I think most of us can agree upon that. Most of us being, nutritionally minded experts who look at, nutritional science and stuff. But yeah, when it comes down to it, you are fully in the driver's seat, and it's so important for you to take the wheel with both hands and live your life and heal yourself. I know we wanted to also talk about some other examples of real world examples that we've witnessed of chronic conditions healing, but the evidence of the self-healing body and all that kind of good stuff. But I think at this point we kind of get the idea. We get the idea. And if you are looking for more inspiration, if you are looking for more support, more ideas, and hope and all that good stuff, just stay connected, because we've got lots to share in terms of that inspiration and support and hope. And we look forward to staying in conversation and seeing you guys next time. You already did your parting words, but any other announcements or anything?
That's it.
All right. Peace and love, you guys. See you next time.
Bye for now.